Hey everyone, we're going to be looking at the demo I did. We're going to be testing this out to see how this works. So this is all done in Photoshop here. What I'm doing here is just quickly laying in the head, get a feeling for where the parallel lines are going to be. Laid in real quickly the outside of the head, then coming into the nose and then finding the part of the face that's looking away like we did in week 1. Of course, laying in the neck here. Just going to feel to it, getting that keystone part that comes down from the brow ridge to the nose and then laying in the block form of the nose, eye sockets here. Trying to get a feel for where the eye sockets are. There are going to be lots of adjustments that go on all the time as you're drawing. So you're just trying to make sure everything parallels at the end of the eye socket when it comes down from the brow ridge before it goes into the cheek zone that's parallel there. Laid in the inside plane from the front to the side plane, and it mirrors the outside. Trying to find a similar rhythm to the cheek on the inside like I did the outside. Roughly laid into the eyebrow there. Now I'm coming back. Slowly working stuff, defining more of that keystone image. Now I'm thinking about how that inside of that nose, or the side of the nose there, how that goes into the eye socket after I get done laying in that top plane, coming around to the nostril. Just defining these shapes now, making them a little bit more specific. Of course, this isn't the final shape. Getting the muzzle, trying to define where that muzzle shape is for the mouth. Now I'm laying in the mouth. And you'll see that this mouth ends up causing me problems. I lost my drawing a little bit when I eventually add in shading, and should have waited a little bit more before I went into the shading. So just going through and, refining it. That's going to be where the shoulders are. Trying to think of where the outside of the hairline is, then connects to the jawline. Thinking where that ear is going to be inside there. Top of the, eyebrows, the bottom of the nose. Trying to get the back of that neck and now the head. Thinking of that hairline again. Refining the outside contour of the face. This is actually the hair. Simplified shape for the hair. I don't have it for this one, but I'm going to do more of these. I'm going to find a way to put picture in picture so you can see exactly what I'm drawing from. And now I'm just bringing the eraser. I'm just lightening some of this stuff up. Here's where I'm really thinking about how that edge of the nose kind of goes into the eye socket, and we see it on the inside edge, but then we also see a little bit on the outside. It's actually covering the eyeball just a little bit right there where I added the white on the outside. I'll go back to it in a second. Now I'm trying to really define that eye socket and be more distinct with it. That part that I just did there, that's that inside part of the nose where it's traveling into the eye socket, and it actually blocks a little bit of the eyeball from this angle. Just kind of laying in that nasal bone. Once again, showing you how that bone goes inside there. Now I'm kind of laying in the big shape of the eyeball itself. Thinking about how that eyeball rests within there and the big overall shape. I'm kind of over exaggerating it here because she's looking down. It looks really funny. But I just want to make sure that we remember that that eyeball is a round sphere, a ball shape. And I say ball just because everyone remembers what it's like to hold a round ball in our hands. There's a real distinct physical memory tied to us. So once again, now I'm showing you on the side here just a quick thing of what I'm thinking about how this eyeball is going to look. Putting in the top eyelid, now the bottom eyelid. sectioning it off to front and sides here, kind of showing you what I'm going to be thinking about as I do this. Now this is showing in the eyebrow here, and then you'll see I'll come back to the eraser, and I'm just noticing where that I'm just erasing that part so the eyebrow really comes up from inside the eye socket to up and over the eye socket. So that's just like a little side note to tell you what I'm thinking about. And now I'm actually coming in and laying in that eyeball. It's hard to see, but I actually laid in the eyeball itself underneath the eyelids, and it's a little farther back there. Mary, think of that orange peel effect. If we take away part of an orange peel, that the skin is, there's a little distance between the skin and the actual fruit. Here I noticed that I actually made the eyeball a little bit far in, so it brought the line up from the edge of the nose, so it lines up with the edge of the eyeball again. And just correcting, there's nothing wrong with correcting. Usually that's the big difference between those that do and don't, is that, you know, we accept that we're going to mess up and we just mess up and keep on going. Laying in the big shadow shapes here, laid it in a little bit for the eyeball. Now I'm laying it in for the side plane of the face. Getting the cast shadow from the nose. You'll see that this lower part of this face kind of vexed me a whole lot. I think I was worrying a little too much about how I was doing this. You know, I was trying out this new technique to try and make this feel a little bit more like a natural media instead of something done in Photoshop. So I'm kind of playing around and adjusting stuff. And I didn't focus as much on that lower jaw as I should have, which is okay. I recognize it, and you'll see I constantly go back and start readjusting it. I'm just laying in the shadow. There's a shadow shape there for the cheek, and you can see first I laid it in as a big plane, just so I know that there's a big plane there. Now I'm going to kind of show you where the center line is. And at first I'm getting those angles from the forehead to the top of the nose, and then the top of the nose to the chin, and then you can see how I actually brought the center line down from that tip of that nose, come through the mouth, going over the lips and the chin. This is showing you how I'm going to readjust the chin. You know, when I'm doing something like this, I'm not worrying about anything being too critical. It's because the moment we start stressing and worrying too much, the drawing's going to get all stiff, and we're going to have a panic attack or we get too uptight about it. I just know that I'm going to readjust. It's no big deal. Coming in, laying in that other cheek. I want to make sure it parallels the outside cheek a little bit more. So really, more and more, that front plane of that face is really getting defined here. You know, we really see that front plane of the face. And that is something I got to as quick as I could, so that I could really understand front and side. I think probably I went a little too fast. Well, not probably. I know I went too fast laying in some of the shadow here. Once again, I was just playing with technique. I'm going to refine this whole technique. I'm going to try to do more demos that I can post up here for you guys to look at and see. So hopefully this will get refined as it goes along. Laying in kind of that shadow shapes for everything, just restating the whole values. Important to get that drop shadow from the nose, side plane of that mouth, that whole muzzle shape of the mouth there. Muzzle is usually that whole kind of teeth area that we see with the skull. We kind of define that as a muzzle shape. Kind of knock back the teeth a little bit. I'm going to be playing back and forth with stuff, seeing if I like it or if I don't like it. You know, we got that one side cheek on the outside where we can really see that she's smiling, and I lightened up, I erased some of that and brought some of that back in on the side that's closest to us. Characteristics of the nose, redefining that cheek on the inside just a little bit more. You can see I'm jumping around here, trying to think of the face as a whole. And you'll know sometimes when I do this stuff, I will actually be my lines will be a little farther out, and I slowly bring the outside contour line in as I'm working on a piece. So I give my room to kind of adjust things. I'd much rather bring a contour line in than have to actually erase a whole bunch and bring a contour line out. Now I just added a little bit of line work just for the hair. Just wanting a little characteristic and a little line to break up from that shadow. If this was a finished piece, I would actually probably add a little bit more line in there. You know, I keep on going back to this mouth, kind of readjusting it. It's not feeling as round as I need it to be. But now here, actually this part I thought I did pretty well. I think the value's a little bit too dark, but I came up from that jaw or that chin, and then you really get a sense of that muscle kind of going over and overlapping the other muscle there. That was that line. Now kind of doing the cheeks, trying to get a feel for them. You'll notice I erased some stuff, lightened it, now I'm darkening some others. When I laid in that cast shadow, one of the things I did is from the nose to the top of the lip there is I really tried to actually get a sense of that muzzle part actually having a sense of curve. So I'll kind of readjust my shadows to kind of emphasize that. See, knocking this eyelid in there or the eye socket with a shadow, I'm going to come back in and erase and bring in, you're going to see I'm actually emphasize the eyelashes that I just did there. Readjusting, constantly reevaluating. Noticing I want that straight line there on that inside that keystone shape. I just erased that and brought that in there. Brought this line. I really wanted to make sure at regular pace I really actually worked to get that line coming up from the inside eye, that kind of wrinkle part on it. Make sure it really felt like it was curving up and over. Once again, cheeks, then I'm defining the shadows of the neck here. And like I said, I didn't really worry about this too much. I wasn't trying to make this super pretty. Once again, testing out the demo. Erasing some lines, adding some more kind of that line, erasing some of the darks, adding some lines in there by erasing it, redefining the back of the head. I'm constantly going back and reevaluating, trying to get some of the individual hair shapes that's off the back there. Now just darkening in that whole side of the face there. Got some of the neck coming down. You'll see I'm readjusting how big my eraser is. And I'll go back and I'll erase stuff and then make it all darker again. But I'm just kind of redefining shapes, kind of loosely defining that area and then covering it all up again. A little bit of shadow, but it's a little bit more defined than it was. Erasing some areas and making some of those areas a little lighter. I'm going to come back and reinstate some of those cheeks. I think I went too dark on this. Like I said, I didn't really take this all the way to finish. Let me get back to that mouth in just a second. That vexed me. Man, there's a real curve to that whole mouth shape that we have to remember. Just like our eyeballs have a curve to them, that they're a sphere. Our mouth is almost like a pipe, you know, that we see with the curved part facing out towards us. So I'm going to come back in just a second. I'm laying some white value on here, but this will lead me going back to that mouth. I'm trying to get that curve a little bit better. Yeah, readjusting and erasing out just a little bit, and I think that really adds to that outside lip just kind of turning in there a little bit more. Readjusting here. Sometimes if I'm not sure what I want to do with a certain section, but I know I'm feeling like it's wrong, I'll move to something else that I know how to do and kind of give my brain a second to kind of relax and think about it, and I'll come back to it. Now this, this is an artistic choice. I just erased part of the chin there and kind of let the tone go right into the tone of the paper. This is called the passageway. Sometimes we'll create passageway where stuff will lead from the outside up into the end side of our drawing. So again, just working some stuff, redefining. Like I said, I didn't take it much farther beyond here. We're almost at the end here. So taking it to the finish as far as where this little demo got us. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.